there's still a few of you that are in denial about the European Union committing suicide. So let me clue you into what's going on over there as of yesterday. The European Union will probably shove Brexit even further along by punishing other countries that are already just rejecting the EU's bullshit. You have to remember that there's two sides to the EU. There's the carrot and the stick. The carrot is supposedly, and this is only, according to their own rhetoric and propaganda, that the European Union's common market makes European countries stronger on the world scene. It lets their export position compete and punch at a higher weight than they would as individual countries. Meaning that, a country like Austria, for example, which is very small, has no, it's a landlocked country. A country like that, given the umbrella of the EU common market, the European common market, they're able to compete on the world scene with the likes of Japan, for example, with the likes of China. Now, that's what they say that they do. It doesn't really work that way. What ends up happening is that all of the concerns of each EU country are basically balanced against one another. So if you're a, let's say, a semiconductor manufacturer in Romania, which I think is an EU member state, it is, and you're competing against a similar company in Denmark, then the two of you basically have to fight over the scraps in world trade. Okay, and within Europe, it's not as bad of a situation if you're selling things within Europe, but ultimately, every industry and every company, their strength is derived on it's derived from how much access they have to bureaucrats in Brussels, the capital of the European Union. So it's probably one of the most dysfunctional systems of corporate cronyism that there's ever been. Now, that's the carrot. What's the stick? The stick is that you have to take in migrants that are going to destroy your country and fuck it up beyond any reasons. And I'm not even just talking about migrants from the Middle East and North Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, because that would be unfair. Because they're not the only ones. The other people that are coming in as migrants are people from within the European Union. And in the case of Britain, that's been a problem because there's tons of Romanian poor that flock over to Britain. So basically, what the European Union does is it provides a safety valve, which I've already explained in my video after the Manchester attack. There's a relief valve. Every country that has an issue with unemployed youth, with, let's say, urban blight, a lack of development in agricultural areas, all they say is, hey, young bloods, if you all want to really succeed, you can go the fuck over to Europe, another part of Europe, France or the United Kingdom, and you can do it there because over here we're going to keep running this place like the dump it's always been, and there's nothing you can do about it because this isn't really a democracy. It's already been bought and paid for by the European Union. But where they didn't bargain for is that they could push the same bullshit ideals of free migration on those countries, the poorer countries of Eastern Europe, that they did on the more wealthy ones of Western Europe. You see, the liberal guilt nonsense really only works in countries that were part of the European Union, or I think it was the European Economic Community before the end of the Cold War. Those countries, the Western democracies, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Spain was a democracy after 1975, Italy, which I'll get to in a minute. You can talk about Sweden and the rest of Scandinavia. Those countries that they've gone through so many years. It's almost like the hypothetical situation that Donald Trump always talks about, where they get tired of winning and they say there's too much winning. We can't take all this winning. So they start trying to lose, and that's what they've been doing. So those Western European values, where they've been basically turned into cucks, and they're letting these migrants come in and take over their country, basically run roughshod over their local values and culture. That doesn't work in Eastern Europe. Okay, the people of Eastern Europe, Croatia, Slovenia, Romania, they're never going to. Well, I think Croatia is not as militant as let's say Poland, but they had enough of foreigners coming in and imposing their ways of life under communism up until the end of the 80s, and they're not going to take it again, and not in a different form. A lot of them have come to realize that being a member of the EU is all stick and just a bunch of fake GMO processed ersatz. Ersatz is a word I learned a while back. I haven't used it in years. Imitation carrot. There's no real carrot. It's all stick for them, and it's stick in every which place on their body, if you know what I mean. That's the way they perceive it now. It says here, the latest, Poland reacts to EU legal action over refugees. The Polish government spokesman says that Warsaw expects but does not agree with the decision of the European Commission to launch legal actions against Poland and 2 other countries that have refused to accept refugees as part of a European Union resettlement plan. The European Commission said Tuesday that Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic have breached their legal obligations to take some refugees as part of the 2015 plan, which is aimed at sharing the burden of 160,000 migrants at camps in Italy and Greece. Rafał Bochenek, spokesman for the conservative government of Prime Minister Beata Szydło, said the Polish leadership does not agree with the Commission's decision. He said it has been saying from the very beginning that the forced relocation of people is not a good solution to the migration crisis. Then it goes and says, Czech Prime Minister Bohuslav Sobotka says his country is not ready to change its view of a European Union migrant sharing plan, following an announcement that the EU is launching legal action against the Czech Republic and 2 other countries for failing to take in enough refugees. Sobotka said in a statement on Tuesday, the Czech Republic doesn't agree with the relocation system based on migrant quotas, and given the worsened security situation in Europe, and also that the quota system is not functioning, and won't participate in it. So all the people that are complaining in America now, let's say California and New Jersey, I think you have all these local authorities now. I think Akron today claimed that they're going to join the Paris Climate Accords because they don't agree with Trump. Look at what's happening in Europe. You have people, distinct groups of people. The Czech culture is pretty. It is distinct. It has some commonalities to the surrounding countries, but the Czechs became a free country in 1989, and they did it in order to escape Russian domination, German domination. The Czechs have been for centuries just subjugated by foreigners, and now what is the European Union trying to tell them? Look, if you want to be one of us, you have to let millions and millions of foreigners, or whatever it would be. I mean, even if it's tens or hundreds of thousands, come in and live their way of life on your land, and you have to house and feed them. And by the way, we don't have a plan for what's going to happen to them in the long run. We're just letting them in because otherwise we're going to feel guilty that we didn't let them come in. It doesn't matter that many of them don't even come from a real war zone, and that they're basically economic migrants that come from countries that our own governments fund civil wars there in order to test our weapon systems and to take away all of their natural resources. So that's basically what they're offering to the Czech Republic, to the Poles, and all of those countries in Eastern Europe. We're not talking about imperialist powers. Poland has never been all you people ranting about racism and prejudice. You can look at probably one by one. Almost none of these countries has ever been like a world power, has ever forced somebody else to live under their thumb. I mean, they're not exactly lands that are teeming with progressive thought and open societies. I mean, there's plenty. Look, remember, I mean, Hungary, I think, is like the home to like the world's largest gypsy population. These people that are basically living as traveling grifters or something, and well, that's at least according to the stereotype. I don't know any gypsies, and I'm not claiming to know what they do, but according to the stereotype, that's what they do, and most of them live in Hungary. But since the end of the Cold War, these countries they did have the chance to know what freedom was, and they're not trying to give it up. They're not trying to let somebody come in and take a dump on their picnic. When they suffered basically 50 years of Soviet domination. Before that, they were under German or Austrian domination, before World War I. These countries, they want to, or Russian domination before that too, whatever. They want to spread their wings, and they don't want some, slick three-piece suit wearing bureaucrat over in Brussels dictating to them how they're going to run their country. Okay, so what's going to happen now? I don't know if these countries are going to leave the EU, but I do know that there is another country that's not in Eastern Europe that is basically causing a lot of cracks to form in the foundation of the whole European Union project. Okay, wouldn't you know, the same day, Rome's five-star mayor calls to halt migrants flow into the city. The five-star means that's the name of her party, the five-star movement. Hold on. This isn't moving. Okay, here we go. Rome Mayor Virginia Raggi, a prominent member of the anti-establishment five-star movement, has asked the government not to send any more asylum seekers to the capital, saying it is already groaning under the strain. The request was made public on Tuesday after the five-star took a drubbing at local elections on Sunday, failing to make the runoff in 24 of the main 25 cities called to pick a mayor. A national vote is due by the first half of next year. Managing newly arrived migrants has become one of the thorniest issues for Italy's government, which is run by the Democratic Party, the Five Stars' rival. More than 500,000 people have arrived by boat from North Africa since 2014, and almost 200,000 are being housed in state-funded centers while they put forward asylum requests. Raggi wrote to the Interior Ministry, which is responsible for plans to relocate asylum seekers from arrival points on the southern coast to the rest of the country, asking to suspend further arrivals to the capital, her spokesman said. This administration hopes the decisions about where to put the new centers will take into account the evident pressure migration is putting on Rome and the consequences, which may be devastating socially, for the protection of the people they are built for. So there's all of this. Only around a third of Italy's 8,000 city governments have offered to shelter asylum seekers. In Rome, police have repeatedly cleared out temporary camps for people trying to reach northern Europe, citing security concerns. Andrea Costa, director of the Baobab Experience volunteer group, which has set up impromptu kitchens and tents for migrants in a rundown area of eastern Rome, derided Raggi's letter. With a wink at the worst of the xenophobic right wing, Raggi hopes to bounce back from her movement's electoral flop. So I'll tell you what my take is on this. Yeah, there might have been a little dip in, Eurosceptic support right now. But how long do you think that's going to last when you have weekly outrages going on in the UK? There's a house fire going, or a massive apartment fire going on in the United Kingdom right now as I'm talking. And do you think that this dip is going to last if people are seeing, homes getting burned or concerts blown up in the case of Manchester? Do you think that's really going to last? The nation of Italy is going to be, and I'm sticking by my prediction. Okay, I don't know about using the term doubling down as Cenk Uygur did about Jeremy Corbyn winning the UK election and becoming the next prime minister, but I do believe that Italy is going to be the next country to really make a break with the European Union, and it's going to be a more painful process than Brexit, largely because Italy was very economically unstable before joining the EU, before the EU became the EU in its present form, because they've always had this kind of chaotic system and high degrees of corruption. But the corruption in Italy is ironically one of the issues that is going to probably pull it out of Europe faster than the other ones, because in order for Italy's governments to actually function, they often have to pander to these criminal gangs in southern Italy, including, yes, the actual mafia and other organizations like the 'Ndrangheta, I think it's pronounced, and the Camorra in Naples, or Napoli as they like to say there. I love the Italian people, and the bottom line is this: when choosing between their own identity, the Italy of Michelangelo and Botticelli and veal parmesan and whatever the hell they eat there too, which I can't eat all Italian food, but whatever I can eat, I love. But when given the choice between that and the bullshit, bland, sexless, genderless, colorless European identity, the Italians are going to. Which one do you think the Italians are going to go with? So anyway, I'm seeing this lawsuit, this wielding of the stick. This is the next phase in the downfall of the European Union. People are going to get tired of it. There are going to be real riots now against migrants. They're going to be cropping up all the time. And these governments are going to be completely unable to cope with them. They're basically going to be run out of town, and we're going to see the emergence of independent states again. Some of them I don't know if they'll ever survive. Given what happened in France, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them just sunk into mediocrity and lost their character entirely. So anyway, as I have a good night, comment, share, and like this video. And let me know, do you agree if Italy is going to be the next chink in the EU armor to go, or do you have a different idea of what's going to happen?